Good evening, everyone. So sorry about that craziness we just had to go through, but I hope you all enjoyed this wonderful new theme song produced by the one and the only, my friend Michael Dale. And if you have not followed Michael Dale on his X, he has done all those. You've seen the Garbage Pail Kid designs of all the RPG content creators. That's all his doing. He knows how to mess with that AI algorithm to make all sorts of stuff. So, and he used it to make this song for me, which I'm going to use for my theme song for a while. And so, now that we finally got this figured out, because I was going insane over here, it is going to be a tiny talk about Tiny D10 with the one and only creator of that game, Mr. Aaron himself. Can you hear me, Aaron?
I can hear you. Actually, I can hear you twice. I'm getting, like a 5 second delay in your audio. That might be on my end, but
Yeah, it's going to be one of those nights, people, so just buckle up. So, but yep, we're going to talk about all things Tiny D10 tonight. So I got the original, basically the fantasy supplement, and then we got the mafioso version. So, Aaron, for those who don't know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Uh oh, and I just lost him. Hang on, everyone. It's going to be one of those nights, apparently. We'll see if he gets right back.
okay. I think we're good now. I think we're ready.
It's like, oh, I forgot the phrase I was looking for. You cannot stop us, Satan!
Not today.
Okay, so let me repeat again. So, for those who do not know who you are, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. My name is Aaron. I made the Tiny D10 tabletop role playing game. It's kind of like an ultra rules light fantasy styled game. It's really kind of like a game system. It's very easy to plug different genres and different styles of play into. But yeah, that's pretty much me. I made it about at this point close to 12 years ago. Initially I made it so that my kids, who were 4 and 5 at the time, had a way to kind of play tabletop games with me, and it's just kind of evolved alongside them. It's been more or less the same for probably the past 6 years now. So it's kind of settled into a set of rules, and just kind of its own little groove there. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to me.
All right, and one thing I always usually like to ask, since we are now approaching the end of the week, did you get any gaming in this week, Mr. Aaron?
I did not. No, between work and unpacking, all these books on my shelf here, they were not there like 2 hours ago. I just ran home and I threw everything up there, so I'd have a decent background for you. But no, we've been very busy, moving into our new home. So did not get any gaming in, but I think we'll carve out some time to get some gaming in this weekend. So long story short, when we moved out here, I broke down all the furniture. I put all the furniture in the furniture hardware in very neatly labeled bags. And then I put the bags everywhere in all sorts of different boxes. So it took us about almost 2 weeks to find the hardware for our kitchen table, which is where we traditionally set up to play some games. So yeah, I like literally just got the kitchen table put together like yesterday. But now that we have our tabletop back, yeah, we're gonna get some stuff going on this weekend.
Yeah, because I just noticed you got the old school like D&D on the back, and I don't think I've ever seen that cover of a Tiny D10 book before. The black one you got, the very
Oh
top
yeah, so this
cover.
one, this is let me pull it down here. So that's my appendix C, and it's not actually available just yet. But this is a collection of all of the stories that I reference in the Appendix C in the Tiny D10 Fantasy Core Rules. It's got Robert E. Howard. It's got Algernon Blackwood. It's got Edgar Rice Burroughs. All these public domain stories, just kind of in a convenient little format for anybody who shares my same taste in literature and all the things that kind of inspired the Tiny D10 system. So, like I said, this is just kind of like a test copy that I put together, and then read through all the stories of the family here. But eventually, this will be for sale at print cost. I think it's like $6 to print this thing out. So eventually you'll see this on Lulu and everybody can get it. It's probably going to be the first in a multi-volume series, because I have very many stories from the public domain that I like, from Algernon Blackwood, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and Robert E. Howard, very specifically. Those are probably like my three favorite fiction authors.
Yep, hold on. Sorry, everyone. The tech support person who were messaging to try to figure all this crap out before we got started was trying to send me a follow message. So I'm just typing, "We're good now."
Good. We're good.
Thank you very much,
Kevin. Go, Kevin.
Or Rajit, Gudansan, whoever your name is. So I ended up playing. Was it Wednesday or no? Today's Friday. For some reason, I was thinking it was Thursday for some reason.
Oh,
but
I'm glad it's not.
Did I play? No, I can't remember. I can't remember if I played the Horde Wars game on Wednesday or Thursday. But Horde Wars game, me and Patty also talk about this often. It's a D12 fantasy system, and it's one that I've been playing for at least the past almost 3 years now. And it's funny because the guy, my character I was playing as, he had to go from his hometown to another country to meet up with a party, just to go back to his home country to help take care of this this bandit camp that was in the area. Gotta get rid of I think it was Lalo the Red was the leader's name.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just interesting because we had a in the Horde Wars, you have careers and you pick two for your characters. And so hold on, I'm getting this out of the way because it's not bothering me. I think my mic's not in the right place.
I just assumed that was me. I wasn't going to say anything. I thought that was probably my fault.
Oh. Nope, I didn't realize that. Better?
Crystal clear.
Yep. Thank you for pointing that out. His name is actually Mercurius, but his thing is my ear trumpet has been struck by lightning, just because it throws everyone off when every time reads it. So thank you for pointing that out, Mercurius. I did think to check my audio settings before I came on. So
it sounded great right before we actually finally went live. So like I said, I assume that was my problem.
Yeah, who knows with me? And then it's like, I'm 32 years old, I am divorced, and I live in a van down by the river, as I like to say all the time. But so he was playing one kid was playing a halfling blue wizard Viking. So you could rage, but then the blue wizards like lightning spells and all that. But they also had some scrolls. So the character used a scroll to shape change into a bear, then grappled the bandit leader, then used the flight spell to be a flying bear and just go up, 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 up with the bandit leader. As we're just taking out all the peons, I end up I think I lightning bolted almost 20 of them, and then there was just one poor soul running away. And I'm like, I already had used my lightning bolt expenses, but there's rules where you can try it, but you got to roll for it, and I succeeded. So I just said, oh, I lift my morning star, lightning bolt shoots up, poor soul, boom, just burnt bone. And then, of course, the bandit leader got splat. Because I think it was 30d6 of damage was the fall overall.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what did that roll out to?
Well, he actually misheard, and he rolled 60d6 because the guy who had this character was a Shadowrun player, so he had all the dice to do it.
Nice.
And so he ended up rolling with 60d6, 189 damage, and then we told him it was wrong. Oh, just have it then. So it was 90-something plus damage, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah. 100. Yeah, that would be about 90, 92, 93. No, wait. No, 94, 95 points of damage at least. Yeah, something like that.
That's too funny.
Yeah, and then I'm going to be playing into more Bears and Borderlands tomorrow because we were talking about that backstage.
Yep.
Which is why I always make sure when I'm doing this, I always have to share out the new Kickstarter that they're doing. We're doing this with the Arduino people. Art's Portal to Adventure, which is now at almost 27,000, a little over 5 times the amount they were wanting originally.
Amazing.
With 142 backers, you still got about 3 weeks to go. And then like you get you get the Arduin trilogy. You get some Blackmore stuff from Mr. Blackmore from Griff himself, the Lost Legend Borg. You get the whole Barrows of Borderlands box set. And then if you do like what I call it the Ultra Pledge, is as we joke, you get all of this in that big old box right up here.
So hang on. You get the Barrows and Borderlands box set with this Kickstarter here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm in. I have such a hard time keeping up with all these excellent Kickstarters. So I've been following this one, but I didn't realize that this is another opportunity to get the box set. So I think I'm gonna have to jump on that.
Yeah, because once I get this one, this will be like the 5th version of Barrows of Borderlands I own, because I have the second printing of both the booklets and a omnibus. I now have the booklets of the third printing and the new omnibus coming along the way. This is going to be all third printing, but it's going to include Radioactive Boogaloo, which is like some supplement stuff. So like more races, more. And then he made this is Dracula in Space, which was an adventure he made for this.
Today. Yeah, that is too cool.
Yeah.
And that's Matthew, right? With Barrows and Borderlands, absolutely prolific. I'm unbelievably impressed by that output.
Yeah, Matthew Tapp, and he's only 26 years old. This is a young dude who, if you listen to the story, when you see him in videos, he talks about his friends. They all started with 5e, and they just played backwards until they got to 0th edition, basically.
Very cool. That was kind of similar to my introduction to Dungeons and Dragons. I started with 4e, had a blast, played that for a couple of years, and then immediately jumped back to BX, and then played around in that probably decade for another 5 or 6 years. But it's fun. It's fun. Everybody's got a different gateway, it seems. But especially people in this sphere tend to gravitate back 40, 50 years ago to the origin. It's pretty cool how that happens.
Yeah, and then I had never even heard of Arduin until I started playing Barrows of Borderlands, because they also do Hyperborea, they do Traveler. There's a couple. It's basically
swordsman one.
I don't recall at the top of my head. It's like Hyperborea or something.
Yeah, I know. I feel like there might be 1 or 2 of those that I'm tracking, but
there's one main one I know that everyone talks about, but I forget the name of the creator that does it.
Anything that takes me back to the Hyborian age, I'm all over that.
Yeah, and then they were also going to do Barsoom is like one of the planets in the galaxy for this game too. And then so I got like Warriors of the Red Planet white box
somewhere up here. I love, obviously, I love Burroughs. So yeah, but I've never actually played in a Barsoom setting. I think Magic Man is working on something like that as well. So yeah, that's another thing that I want to get my hands on is a Barsoom setting. I would love to do that. The boys love the John Carter series.
Yeah. Oh, the movie was great. I remember the Disney movie. We watched it because we do movie nights on the Barrows Borderlands Discord server.
Cool.
And we watched that like a few weeks back was the Disney John Carter. And I forgot how good that movie was for its time.
I haven't seen it myself. Just because, I wouldn't say I'm a purist necessarily. But I have a very particular vision of like all of these stories that I read. So I'm very cautious about letting somebody else's vision into my own. But I've heard that it's a really good one, and it is on my watch list. I see Rob.
And then I know.
Guy? Yep, I've got all those up here as well.
Yeah.
Pellucidar is probably my favorite of Burroughs' work, just because, at the Earth's core, that whole kind of vibe. I'm big on the Lost World stuff.
Yeah, and so and I know before I continue, Castles of Crusade guys are also working on a Barsoom book too, as well, because I'm part of their Discord server. They mentioned that's been brought up. So you get the disadjusted PDFs for the Arduin Grimoire and Barrows of Borderlands, $30 for who knows how many PDFs. The box sets alone are $85.
Handsome.
And and then just showing all this stuff, scrolling. Like there is a lot that's coming with this. And
a lot of bang for your buck there. I like it.
Yeah, 145 it is for the normal. Yeah. And I'm actually tiered up at the main tier, which includes a UV protective display case. The Ultra Pledge, as we jokingly call it. Yep. So yeah, and so I just like to shout that out whenever I can. Again, you got 3 weeks still. And then Matthew's going to be on here in about 2 weeks. We're going to talk a little bit more about that and what we're going to do. And he's going to help me make a character that, because the character sheets they have for this is compatible with both the Arduino game and the Bears of Borderlands game.
Very cool. Okay.
Yep. And so let me get out of that. And I had a train of thought, and let me get you back up to normal size. There we go.
Right. You leave me tiny. That's okay. It's the name of the game.
Yep. Yeah. So tiny then. So I guess now, enough horsing around. What? Hold on. That is not right at all. Now my whole mirror is backwards on here. It's just one thing after another today, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Okay. So what started up Tiny D10? What gave you the idea?
Yeah, well, so kind of like I said, I've been playing tabletop role-playing games for a few years at this point. I got into them, very late. It was with some friends of mine in tech school, back in 2010. So I was, 23, 24, maybe. I'd always kind of been interested in D&D, but, never had an opportunity to play it. So some of my friends in tech school were big into it. So we got a really consistent game group going, played at least once a week. And just, totally fell in love with the entire idea of tabletop RPGs. So played for a few years. My kids were very young at that point, so they were all in bed when, we had our group going on. So a few years go by, they kind of get old enough, like I said, around the 4 and 5, age where I, figuring, they're old enough to, they've got this really active imagination, really good concept of like imaginative play. So I was like, well, I could probably, introduce them to, tabletop RPGs, but obviously, nothing too complex, So my thinking was, well, I just go back to the beginning, write a couple of very simple rules down. The first one being, anytime you want to do something where there's a chance of failure, you roll a die. And then we just kind of built from there, So obviously, they had a lot of fun rolling dice, very, good opportunity to learn like basic mathematics. And I chose the D10 because, we have a base 10 system, and that's just kind of like an intuitive thing for kids to learn. And then we just kind of went from there. As they got older, as, more complex situations presented themselves in play, we would tack a rule on, just kind of jot something down, and it just kind of grew from there. Like I said, it took about 5 or 6 years to get to the point where it is now. Initially, it was just a single page. Now it's 10 pages and it covers about everything that I feel like it needs to cover. And anything else can be covered by, a different game because, there's nobody in our hobby that plays just one system. Or you could tack another rule on. Again, it's a very modular thing. It was built in a modular fashion. So it's very easy to plug different kind of rules into it to, kind of expand the game, increase complexity, or just introduce new, features and functions. And that's really the impetus there. Started, as a game for, preschoolers, and, now it's a game that I think everybody can enjoy, but is still very much, especially focused on, on kids, on younger players.
Yeah. I slowly introduced my kiddo to TTRPGs because he sees like my collection of books. He sees all my dice. My dice tower I keep here. That sometimes I'll have the camera on that you see my dice come out of. He wants to constantly play with it, and so
they just want to do what Dad's doing.
Exactly. Well, I started him first off with this game called Hero Kids, and it's a fantasy RPG that's for I think it's 6 to 10 is what I want to say it is, and it's just you roll like how many d6 your character sheet says. I roll how many d6 for the enemy. We compare the highest rolls and see if you hit me or if I defend, basically.
Nice.
And then if it's
rolls are really fun for kids. That I introduced that with challenge rolls because again rolling, the anticipation, the tension of two characters or two actions pit against each other. Kids love that.
Yeah, and so the last time I played it, because the first time we played it, I had some pre-mades and he picked one. The second time, I showed him how to create his own character because I had some little character creation rules. Mm-hmm. But the thing was, he was like, I want jetpack, I want rockets. I'm like, not that kind of game, son. But after that, it just made me start thinking I do have a couple sci-fi games. I wonder if I should. Now they do have one called Space Kids,
nice.
But I'm thinking about this. My son isn't a dummy. He is smart. for his age because he'll be 7 this year. So I'm thinking about I do have a couple like smaller sci-fi RPGs. Like I have a buddy of mine. He created this one called Out the Black Hack, which is which is basically the Black Hack system, but it's basically think Spaceballs, the
Okay.
RPG.
Nice.
Yeah, it's got that kind of stuff in it. Now, of course, there is some stuff in it. I'm like, hey, there's like drugs and this and that. I'm like, okay, so I can make this kid friendly. I don't need all that. Well,
Yep.
I could teach him say no to drugs early if I have to do that, but I figured it's a simple take a 20-sided dice, roll under or meet, basically. So I figured, and it would be the sci-fi. You got ships and aliens and robots. It sounds like that would be kind of the thing he was going for.
Right.
So,
right. Very cool.
And then for Christmas, there's this game called it's called "Twas the Role Playing Game Before Christmas," where you play as sentient Christmas toys just trying to save Santa, and it's a it's a simple 2d6 meet or roll under system. But I'm going to run that for my family for Christmas.
That'll be super fun.
Yeah, I just need I still got to print out like all the character sheets because there's pre-made ones, so you can be like a teddy bear, rocking horse, toy soldier. But I think I'm going to do is there's a supplement adventure which deals with well, there's two. There's one where you got to deal with the Mouse King from the Nutcracker, or you can all go to Narnia.
Very cool.
Yeah, because it's I think they call it they call it the Lion, the Snitch, and the Wardrobe. I think is what the adventure is called.
Uh-huh.
So I forget the reason why they called it that, but it's like it's just a fun thing. It's like you go to Narnia, and you can also plop these into the main adventure too, because there is kind of a linear story that you do play with the game.
Okay.
When you start at the house, and you're trying to get to the North Pole, and actually, spoiler alert, you got to fight Krampus because that's who kidnapped Santa.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, my Fox Stuff RPG is here in the chat with us.
Hey, Fox.
Another Barrels and Borderlands enjoyer. So we've all been enjoying that. So.
Yep, yeah, I'm subscribed to him on YouTube. I follow his videos closely too.
Yeah, he started doing. He was doing the Gods of the Forbidden North campaign for a while with Old School Essentials, which is also like if you really want like rugged Old School Essentials is one of the best like retro clones in that regard, in my opinion.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've never played OSE, but I've heard good things.
Yep, and then I keep losing my train of thought because I'm saying things, and then I'm thinking one thing, and then I'm thinking another thing. It's all crazy going around. So because you don't have just a fantasy, you may basically kind of like a agnostic rule setting for it, to where you could just like take it to whatever.
Right,
basically.
that's exactly it. Yeah. So it is. Like I said, it's a very modular system, and you can really just reskin everything very easily, and put it into kind of whatever genre you want. Several years ago, back before the final system kind of settled out, there was a Lovecraftian supplement, which I also have. Something I put together. It's kind of like a mashup of Indiana Jones and Lovecraft style play. I mean, it's very it's I think it's very implicit in the Indiana Jones setting. Kind of like the Lovecraftian cosmos sort of idea. So I mashed those two together in a setting called Danger Rules, and we played that. Actually, we get a lot of mileage out of that one here at the at our table, just because we love Indiana Jones. The kids I've read them a handful of Lovecraft stories. Some of the more exciting ones, some of the less like prose heavy ones, like Shadow over Innsmouth or Innsmouth, if you prefer. But so yeah, we've got that very, very kind of just easy to reskin the core system. Obviously, there's the Syndicate, which is the Mafia style play, and that one, there we go. So that was actually Mr. Big's idea, and we were kind of talking about it one day. I didn't know anything about the Mafia genre, so he mentioned what if we did a Mafia one? I was like, well, I don't know anything about the Mafia, but let me watch a couple movies and see what we can do. And yeah, we threw together like a passable game in a couple hours, and we spent a lot of time refining it and spent a lot of time playing that at our table here. And that's another one of our favorites. My kids haven't seen really like any Mafia movies. We've read a couple books, including the book that The Godfather is based on. But I mean, it's very largely mature material. But enough of the mafia tropes, I think, have like been absorbed into popular culture that it's very easy for people to pick up. But yeah, again, in a couple hours, we threw together a very passable mafia game that we spent several months refining and play testing. But that's just kind of a testament to the fact that, yeah, this is a very basic, very modular, and yet very comprehensive engine that you can plug any style of play, any genre into, and be ready to go in just a handful of hours.
Yeah, like I've never seen any of the Godfather movies. I'm familiar with them, but I've never seen them. My most familiarization with the mafia has either been like TV documentaries or like the mafia video games, which is what my current solo play I'm playing through is based on. Because my Bordeaux Bastard solo play that I did one session of and I need to get back into because life caught up with me in that. Well, life caught up with everyone in that moment of all things. That's another subject we can touch on like at a later point. But if it's based on, it actually takes. I had set place taking a few years after the events of the Mafia 3 game, which is it's your late 70s. Vietnam War has just kind of came to an end. And you're still dealing with like the racism of the times because again you got civil rights going on. The KKK was active. Also, it's just some other like Southern movements and all that stuff. But it was a I don't know. I think New Bordeaux actually is a real place. It's just not the version I'm using for this. But it's just interesting because again you had the black mob, which is your normal African Americans, which was also the Haitians were kind of
you added to the game. How long did that take you to whip up?
Well, I was looking through it. I'm like, okay, well, the black mob's not a thing. And then I was kind of looking through it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, the Russian mob, they're very powerful, brute force, kind of the enforcers. I'm like, yeah, I can just substitute the black mob for that.
There you go.
So, yeah, so it didn't take me that long to do. And then you also had like the Italian mafia, which was like kind of the head of everything, and then everyone else kind of was under them in the games. You also had the Irish mob too. And then what I'm doing is I'm still going to have the Russians, the Chinese triads, but I'm also going to throw in the Mexican drug cartel as well as just enemies that they'll face because it's like new era, new enemies. So as they're trying to maintain order, here come new faces coming in to try to mess on the turf. Is the kind of idea is what I'm thinking about. So, and then because I think how I led that my party I made, which is just kind of a weird hodgepodge from all the different little groups. Because that's kind of how it was in the game. It started off with Lincoln Clay, the main character. He had friends from every other side. It was supposed to be like this collaboration thing. Okay, I don't know if that's supposed to be Jewish mob. No, I don't know if that's actually a thing.
It is a thing. It's very much a thing.
It's like I'm just picturing a bunch of rabbis just doing a dancing down the street. Whenever I think that now, but. But yeah, and then I think I did have like a short little combat, which again, you just look in here, find the thug, and then just roll your D10s and see how it goes. And everything does 1 point of damage unless you have something that says otherwise, usually though, right?
Yep,
but your enemies don't like have like a bunch of health points to start with. You may have like I think usually from like I think your normal enemy has like 4 to 7 hit points, maybe. So like I literally like with a 4 hit point thug, I had one of my black mob guy I created just knocked one out with a brass knuckle punch to the face.
Oh yeah, it'll totally do it. Yeah, well, and that's that's another thing that I tried to build into the base 10 system, and it's actually really easy when you're working with small numbers. Is like generally speaking, combat scenarios, they deal a lot of damage. Especially when it comes to like using weapons, like you said, like brass knuckles, any kind of like melee weapon. It's going to deal a lot of damage, to like your average person. So yeah, keeping the game quick, keeping it lethal without being like too deadly, where like you just can't like get a character through an adventure like a single session. There's kind of balance there that I think that base 10 math kind of lends itself to just natively.
Yeah. I like how you bring up the keeping it lethal, but still like not overdoing it because I did not start with D&D. I started with a Powered by the Apocalypse game called City of Mist, which is modern day noir, but you're playing as people with powers based on myths, legends, monsters, that kind of sort of thing. So like you can have a construction worker whose sledgehammer is Mjolnir, or as I like to say, there's the milkman that drives down your street. He's actually the Crooked Man. just going out for his, causing whatever sort of trouble, basically.
Right, right.
And then, my very first character I did, and this one I actually liked, was I made a high school student that was the rift of Joseph from the Bible, and he had a jacket that was basically the robe of many colors.
Very cool.
Because it was like a multicolored jacket. And he lived in the boys' home, and all the boys were like his brother, the other brothers that he had in the Bible, too.
That's awesome. I like that. But yeah. Well, like you said, that's exactly it. I mean, like, we are playing heroes here, so it should be lethal. But it shouldn't be too lethal. Like it's not like not like your average person. These people are physically superior. There's something about it that calls them to heroics, and so they're going to be stronger and ideally smarter than your average person.
Yeah, hold on. Rocky Macabre, I hate PBTA, but that game looked cool. Yeah, trust me, Rocky, it's not like Thirsty for Lesbians at all. I can promise you that, at that least. And there are, I do understand, why some people do hate Power to the Apocalypse, but there are some good games. I remember I actually interviewed the creator of that system, years back on an old show I used to do, and just get to know him, why he came up with it. And he started with Apocalypse World, which is apocalypse-based game, where you're just trying to survive. And then another one that's popular was Monster of the Week, where you're playing it's basically think Supernatural and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then the other popular one was Dungeon World, was the other popular one too, which basically like D&D but simplified. But my original point I was actually going to get to was I'm just now running D&D 5e for the first time ever. The 2014 rules though, not the 2024 rules. And because they were looking, but it was a friend of mine. He and some of his friends were trying to find someone to run Curse of Strahd for them. And I've had that book for a while because it was one of the ones I was wanting to run, but with a different system. I attempted to try to get them to use a different system. They wouldn't budge. But I'm like, you know what? I've never DM'd a 5e game, and I've been dying to get back into that seat again because I have been a player for so long now that I was just dying to GM again. So I said, you know what? Why not? But I warned them. I'm bringing the old school mindset with me on this. So, apparently, Laxbeard says that you have a mini fridge that you need to show off.
Oh, man. I've got half of mine to haul it in here. I haven't even reinstalled it yet. So, all my beer is taking up, food space in my fridge. So that's definitely something I got to get plugged back in. But yeah, it has been my mission to get as many cool stickers from our friends here and slap them on the beer fridge. I found this on the side of the road a couple of years back. Exactly.
Stickers like these.
Yep, exactly. But yes, I found it on the side of the road, several years back, and it's got this cool, faux wood paneling on the front. But yeah, Laxmere sent me some amazing stickers from the West Coast with a heavy emphasis on hairy bipeds. I love Bigfoot. So we got a lot of Bigfoot stickers on there. But yeah, I've got some really cool stickers from our friends here. And, I like to do the sticker exchange. But yeah, so yeah, one of these days, maybe next time we chat, I'll have to do it in front of the beer fridge.
So hold on. I have to ask Rocky Macabre, is that an actual game, Kill Puppies for Satan? Or are you referring to something else? Because now it's one of those things where it's it doesn't sound real, but I'm curious to know. Because, yeah. That's interesting. And yeah, some of the rulebooks, some of them aren't the best. I've bought some PBTA games over the years, PDF or physical, and I'm just not done that well. I've had some games where it's if I've started going through some games, I'm if I know I'm not going to play it, I will just give it away to someone I know who's hey, I don't want this game. Do you want this? I did that with I had backed a game thinking I was going to like it, and then I got it, and I'm now I just feel like I wasted my money. So I reached out. So there's a friend. I literally have one friend. I'm hey, I had this game. I bought it. Not my cup of tea. Do you think you might want it? So I'll send the PDF first to see if they want it. And then they say yes. I just mail them the book. Oh, so apparently the same guy who. Apparently it's the same guy. So I'm going to have to look this up afterwards to get a feel for this. This will be interesting. But anyways, no. Back to my original point was the very first session of Curse of Strahd, party all meets up in various ways, and I almost killed them with a small group of zombies right off the bat. They're all brought down to 1-digit hit points, but then they make it. Now here's the thing though: the entire time they're still walking around after battle, The book still says you're supposed to be rolling every 30 minutes they go in the game for comp to see if they encounter something. Now I switched to once every hour because I don't want to be that cruel and conniving, but I'm still like, yeah, I'm still going to give it a chance. So I'm pretending like one in-game hour passes, roll a die. One in-game hour passes, roll a die. So the second session that we just did did last week, this past Sunday, because it's every other Sunday right now. They're at this friend's house and they're trying to move some plot along kind of deal. And I rolled and got an encounter. So they only just had enough time for a short rest before these three berserkers that are like 60 plus hit points start running down and breaking through the mansion door to come after them. And then we had to end the session because one of the players had to leave early that night. So yeah. I guess Laxmi, to answer your question, how the 5e game go? It's been going pretty well so far. I mean, so the one thing is, like, I'd not tried to keep TPK the party, but I will make them fight for their lives.
It's a good balance.
Yeah. So you run this for your sons mostly, your dozen sons that I think you have at this point. I think going for the Cheap by the Dozen remake in 2025. That was a good movie though for its time. Did you ever watch those?
That was a good movie. I agree. Well, I did watch them, and I liked it back then. But like looking back on that kind of stuff, especially stuff that like promotes big families, which I don't watch a lot of modern media, but you probably don't see is my assumption there. You probably don't see things that promote big families. So yeah, I have to love it by virtue of that. But yeah, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it back in the day.
All right, and then so Laxmir, I had them all start off at level 3. Because I completely skipped over the Death House mission that they usually will have you all start off with, just because I've heard about how deadly that is. And then Mercurius said that the same guy also wrote Dogs of the Vineyard, which is about Weird West Mormons. So hold on, I gotta look this up now. I never
played that one, but I did pick up a copy of it. It was very intriguing concept. So like I said, I never got around to playing it, but I do have a PDF sitting around on one of my computers.
Okay. I was thinking like it was like actual dog people or something. Was what I thought it was going to be for a minute. So, because I decided, because everyone had been talking about it, and I decided I'm going to subject myself to, for my Saturday show, I'm going to watch the new Critical Role 4 campaign, the new campaign 4 that they're doing. And one, I prefer Brennan Lee Mulligan over Matthew Mercer, DM wise, because Brennan, in my opinion, is so much better. The only thing I had ever seen up before I saw that episode was the Calamity EXU that Brennan Lee Mulligan ran, which is kind of what started a lot of my stuff to begin with, and how I kind of DM what I do now, just because I love the narration and the attention to detail and stuff. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff. Let me make that perfectly clear. But in my opinion, he's still a good GM. I wouldn't mind sitting at his table if he was running a game or something. And so I've decided I'm going to subject myself to watching these episodes, to listening to these episodes, and then I'll kind of recap them on my Saturday show that I'm doing now. So they'll be interesting to see how it goes, how crazy it gets. Right now, still starting off, little kind of cringe moments here and there. Not horrible though. Still setting stuff up. Got some intrigue there. Can't complain too much yet. So we'll see how it goes.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to tune in for your coverage of it. I've never watched it myself. And I know what people say, so I think kind of like filtering it maybe through your show and your lens would be very interesting for me.
Yeah. I will say this, they didn't do a lot of checks, but the very first check they rolled, somehow a nat 20. I don't think they're beating the scripted allegations anytime soon. So, anyways, I remember what I was going to ask though. So, yeah, you run this for your sons. Do you run this game for your sons like you would do for like a group of friends, or what things do you do differently?
No, we do it the exact same way. So my obviously the core group, like you said, is my 3 older boys. Some of my younger ones, I've got, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old. My 4-year-old is very close to being ready to kind of jump into the action with us, but my wife plays with us too. We play it exactly like, I played with, like other groups of, my friends, my neighbors, over the years, this game has seen a lot of people. I've probably run 30 to 40 individual people through it, between friends, family, neighbors, almost everywhere I've lived. People, there's something about tabletop RPGs that have permeated the culture at this point, and virtually everybody, the most normal people you could think of, like middle-aged nurses, goat farmers, like all these just like totally normal people have this idea in their head, and they've never played it and they want to play it. It's at that point I'm like, well, I got a game we could try, but I play it the same way for everybody. We just generally do kind of like an open sandbox sort of thing. I've got like a couple worlds that, or a couple settings that, eventually one day I'd like to really commit to paper. What we've been playing for the past few years is the Island of the Ape Men, which is, Lost World setting, a tribute to, all my favorite, Lost World stories, from Burroughs to Howard to, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So we just jump into kind of whatever world I've got going on. I've got kind of, like a steep background, there's, always moving parts, so I'm bringing, different players with different characters into the world that has things going on already. And it's just these things, especially the sandbox style games, they take on a life of their own, and it's very easy to plug people into it. So yeah, like I said, I play really the same style, same game with everybody else. And it goes, we have a lot of fun, and I guess, that's what it's about.
Yeah, and then Cyrus was talking about how he's been playing the Tiny D10 solo, or Tiny Dio as it's known in our circle now, solo.
Yeah.
And he says it will, because this actually does make good for solo gameplay too. I mean, especially with all the material that's out there for how you can run a game solo now. It's so simple. It's funny. It's so easy a caveman could do it.
That's exactly the idea. It's so easy an ape man could do it. But yeah. I talked to Cyrus about that a little while back.
That should be a slogan you do for Tiny D10. So easy an ape man could do it.
I got to write that down. I need to pull up like my notepad or something here.
Yeah, get like on a shirt or something like that. Yeah, especially get on a shirt, put it on fourth wall like me and Patty do for our stuff now. So
yeah, I love that. But yeah, and that was something new for me too. I'd never been exposed to the idea of solo gaming. But yeah, between like you said, all the materials that are out there, a lot of the guys in our circle are running really cool solo games. World of Weird, I've been following his Druid Quest, which is just absolutely just peak solo gaming. And I've learned a lot. So that's something I want to do one of these days too, is just sit down and try it out myself. Like I said, that was a new concept for me. I'm kind of, in a lot of ways, like drinking from a fire hose here, and, being on Twitter, because I'm getting exposed to all these like really new, cool things that, in the very, kind of narrow games, or like, I guess the, narrow scope of, people in games I've been exposed to, a lot of this stuff is like, it's old stuff, but it's being resurfaced too, so there are, really cool concepts, really cool styles of play, faction play, with, what people are, again, like reviving and bringing to the surface. There are really cool new things that, we've started to jump into at my table. We're doing a lot of faction play on the Island of the Ape Men. We've got, a wide variety of factions that are all vying for control of the, the MacGuffin, which is, a meteor that fell to the island, and it enhances the power of like the crystals that are growing all over the place. There's this division on the island of people who want to control the crystals, and there's river pirates, there's tribes of ape men, there's time traveling wizards, all this wild stuff that gets enabled by that faction play. You've got like multiple levels of engagement, different ways that the players are, interacting with the world. So yeah, like I said, I'm learning all sorts of cool stuff, but the solo gaming is one of the things that I definitely need to just sit down and try, because it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting. It sounds like you took a lot of the concepts from the Browser book that some of the guys from the Browser RP out, and then just.
Yeah, the Island of War and Winter is a really well put together piece, and I've read it probably 4 or 5 times at this point. Another book that I've really enjoyed, that is again somewhere up here, is John McGowan's The Living Campaign. That's
what I need to read.
Oh, that's a stellar book. I highly recommend it. Just because, like I said, it gives you all the technical tools to turn your world into, a living setting. But it's very well written, and there's a lot of like really good nuggets that you can take out and just put at your table, put into play immediately. So yeah, between Island of War and Winter, between the Living Campaign and a handful of other, like kind of more like manuals. They're less like books, they're more like manuals. Very practical advice and guidance. Yeah, it's definitely like changed the way we played. Like I said, largely in how quickly you can impact the world, how quickly you can make a lasting change, and just change the world, change the play, change the win conditions. It's yeah, like I said, really some really cool people in this side of the hobby, and I've absorbed a lot of really cool stuff.
So I guess my question, because this has kind of been on my mind here and there, is because I wouldn't call myself bro SR, but the term that I've been given is I'm bro SR. I'm like bro adjacent. Is a term that some of the guys have for me, because I do interact with a few of the good standing members of the bro SR. There's still some ass hat, fortunately, and I've had my own run-ins with those. But I mean, like Dunderman got it for Mike. There's like a couple others that I can't remember at the top of my head that I interact with here and there, but they've all been great guys I interact with. Because I had Scudder for Mike on my channel one time, just asking him like, "What is the Bro SR?" kind of deal, like months ago when I was first doing this. And then in the Bears of Borderlands server, I hate. I feel weird I bring it up so much now, but I mean, that's like my go-to game now for almost everything. That I just can't help but mention it. But there is faction play, because there's like a wizard government that you have to deal with. There's a magic school. There's like a merchants trade like guild that also like goes around the land. We also do 1-to-1 time as well. And then again, it's just also all the other games that we played to go into all the different worlds and stuff. Hyperborea, Barsoom. I think he's also got. What was I just seeing this? Because I was thinking about this the other day. Now there was a ship that had a portal on it, and that ship takes you to Calorath. That's what I'm thinking of, because I'm getting by Castle Grief, because I got that book now coming my way too, and that's actually one I still have yet to play myself, but. Calorath is a good book too, and a lot of people recommend that for solo play as well, because that's like your old school, just easy source of sorcery.
Yeah, that's one I've had my eye on too. He's an incredible artist. Like, I'm really impressed by the stuff he just pumps out.
Yeah, actually, the newest omnibus of Bears of Borderlands, it's called like the Black Label Edition, and Castle Grief did that cover for that, where it's this guy fighting like a Velociraptor. Well, I think they have a UFO flying above them too.
Nice.
Because that's been
I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of my go-to thing. It's either like science fantasy, where it's fantasy with all the scientific elements, like the black powder and stuff, or like modern day fantasy, I call it. But it's like, which is like the Bright movie, where you have the orc cops, or I like to say the elven essays. So it's like you got a bunch of elves dressed like cholos, basically.
That's funny.
Yeah. But that's kind of what drew me to City of Mist in the first place, when I was like, because I didn't start playing until 2019, when we were all locked up in our homes during the year of our Lord and Savior, COVID-19, as I jokingly say. And so I came across a podcast that was playing the game, liked it, got the books. No one was playing, no one was writing the games, so I took it upon myself to start writing the games. And I did that for a while, but then it's got to that thing where it's like, it's the one thing I never liked about 5e is how people try to make you do everything with it. When there's all these games out here now that we can do, like I could do if I took I could do probably Tiny D10 for almost everything if I just took your bare bones system of it and just applied it. But then you also have again, there's so many games that are just flooding through my head right now that it's going to take me all night if I just try to recall each and every one of them. Because there's D&D, you got Castles and Crusades, you got Shadow Dark, Old School Essentials, Barrows of Borderlands, Arduin. I got freaking the Empire of the Petal Throne, which is like the second oldest like RPG game, and I played that for the first time like a couple weeks back, and I rolled so abysmal for my stats that I ended up sacrificing my character at the end, because I'm like, this guy's not going to survive another game. Yeah, because what happened was we were running away from this Yuan-Ti cult. and we had to run over this like thin bridge that was over like a river of lava, and I was the last one that went across. So I stood in the middle of the bridge, waited for all the Yanti to come on the bridge, and then I jumped, and it had already been cracking already. So I just
Right,
cracked the
right.
bridge, and I fell into the river, into the lava with the Yanti.
Very cinematic. You know, there's something to be said for a noble death.
Sorry, I need a drink. Ugh.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Ugh.
I'm excited too, Patty. We talked a little bit, gosh, a couple weeks ago at this point. But that is something that I would love to talk about commissions with. Because I mean, like I said, your black and white art style is the way that I would draw if I could draw. So yeah, it really fits the system. So that's something I think that I would do for sure.
Yep. Sir Hunter Arrow would make an excellent NPC.
That is a good name, a good strong name.
Yeah, and then everyone's talking about because Michael Dale, the guy who made the intro, finally entered the chat, but he missed it. So I think if you're on YouTube, you should be able to just scroll back and just kind of watch that if you want to. I also I did some effects with the video as well, Michael. So it looks like you're watching on like an old TV screen. And then Patty says he's excited for Isle of the Ape Men to come to fruition.
Yeah.
So is this kind of like is this like a Planet of the Apes type vibe I get with this, or?
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely bars a lot of inspiration from the Planet of the Apes. Except like I guess like Ape Men, they're very much modeled after the Planet of the Apes movie. They can talk, they're relatively intelligent, but they still retain a lot of their tribal ape-like characteristics, both in their behavior and then of course in their appearance. But if I had to like nail down like one major influence, I would say probably Wells' Island of Dr. Moreau. There is, like I said, the one of the factions is a very powerful and extremely paranoid wizard who uses these kind of like drone things to surveil the island, and he's got crystal powered computers, and there's kind of a time travel element to him. And he is, he's using working through the Ape Men, but is his own independent faction as well. But yeah, there are the Beast Men, which is another faction on the island, who they're kind of the results of like crystal experiments by the Mad Mage Mercurio is the wizard or the mage's name. But so yeah, he does like experiments like Dr. Moreau, like hybridizing or chimerizing various beastmen, and they're they're in addition to dinosaurs, they're probably like the main threat in the wildlands that you're going to encounter when stepping outside of the faction controlled territories on the island.
Yep. So I had your site pulled up because I wanted to bring it up at some point, just because you don't actually have to always buy a book. You can go right to his website and download the PDF for free, or just use his awesome little website he's got right here.
Yeah. There's all sorts of random stuff on there. Yeah, all sorts of random stuff. So yeah, I mean, the Island of the Ape Men, a lot of the content's on there. 90% of it is just sitting at the table. So like I said, one day I do hope to put a lot of that in paper and make it something that other people can actually play in. But for the time being, it's just filling up notebook after notebook, and that's pretty much where I'm sitting at there. And yeah, thank you for pulling this up, because I did see somebody in the comment asked about where they could get this. Eventually, I'm going to put this into a PDF so it's more convenient. But yeah, the entire rule set for Danger Rules is right there. We also
this was the pulpy one you were talking about, right?
Exactly. That's the pulpy one. That's Indiana Jones meets Lovecraft. I have a really fun adventure that we played through and kind of spun a bunch of different adventures off of. But that is very close to being done. But I'm not prolific like many of our friends are. I'm, like I said, just amazed at the output of some of these guys. But one day I'd like to get this adventure just kind of in front of everybody. But you play whatever role you want in 1930s New York City, where and Anubis from like an Egyptian relic is kind of like on the loose, like murdering people, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, an investigative flair to the you know, Indiana Jones setting. But yeah, like I said, one day, you know, I'll get that on paper and, you know, put it out there for other people to play. But in the meantime, you know, like I said, you know, a lot of stuff is just kind of just happening at a table, and you know, at some point I'll find some time to write it all down.
I do like that you still, even though for a modern kind of more modern setting, you still have arcane and psionic stuff, because that's even though I prefer modern or like science fantasy setting, I still like the idea of people being able to have like magic or psionic and all that still at the same time. So
Oh
I
yeah.
love that, because what I think about is are you familiar with a game called Everyday Heroes?
No, I'm not.
So it's a company called Evil Genius Games, and basically, Everyday Heroes is if you took D20 Modern but replaced it with rules for 5e,
Okay.
is what it basically is. So you're playing modern day people, and they've made all sorts of supplements too. Like they have supplements for like if you want to play like a character from The Crow or Rambo or Pacific Rim or Kong. They got licensed to make those like movie supplements,
Very
but
cool.
but one thing they never really had was magic, because
Mhm.
it was supposed to be modern, but people have been asking for like some Arcana rule set, so they're working on everyday Arcana still
Nice.
at the moment.
Nice.
It's a supplement. So, so I like that this isn't something that like people should still have like powers and all that. So, and then of
Oh yeah,
course,
100%. I mean, you know, magic is part of the real world, in one form or another, and it's a matter of perspective. So yeah, magic it's in virtually every game that I've, you know, built off the tiny D10 system, including the Syndicate. You're not going to find it in the rules there, but I have a couple of, you know, things that I've been working on Mr. Big with Mr. Big on, and one of them is a like a Lovecraftian style adventure for the Syndicate. So you play mobsters who come into contact with, you know, like a magical artifact, and you know, it ultimately culminates in, you know, fighting a necromancer. You know, again, it's a little weirder than you might expect in the Syndicate, so it's not, like I said, packaged up in the core rules there. In the base game, but like I said, yeah, I think you know, magic is ultimately an inseparable part of the experience, whether that's, like I said, in games, or is just a matter of perspective in real life. So yeah, it always ends up in what I'm doing one way or the other.
so I guess one thing I did want to ask is hold on, we'll probably come back to this side here in a minute. So let me just hide that for now. I'll just remove it, and then we can open it back up if I need to. So, okay, what started the syndicate? How was that conversation? Did he approach you about it, or?
He did, yeah. You know, so you know, he's probably like our resident organized crime expert. He's written, gosh, half a dozen books at least on the topic. I mean, I've got a few of them, and they're really good, very informative. Kind of, you know, like a fact centric approach to you know, organized crime in America. So yeah, like I said, he kind of approached me about it, and you know, said, well, do you think, you know, Tiny D10 would, you know, make a good mafia game? And like I said, I was like, at the time, I didn't know anything about the mafia. So I was like, well, why don't you try it and let me know how it goes? But then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, you know, it could be a fun exercise, you know, because part of what I think powers the actual game itself, you know, the core system, is our tropes. You know, it's built around tropes. It's built around you know, these ideas that have become kind of infused in pop culture. But it's also built in such a way that, you know, like if your idea of elves is based more on you know, like the King of Elfland's Daughter, and less on you know, like maybe a more modern approach like Tolkien, then you know, there's enough latitude in the archetype for, you know, you to express, you know, how your relationship with fantasy. You know, everybody has their own appendix N. That influences how they see fantasy, right? So that was kind of, you know, one of the things I wanted to do with, you know, Tiny D10 Fantasy is like build it off of these archetypes, but allow flexibility for people to play these races and these, you know, heroic archetypes in whatever way, you know, they had, you know, built this portrait of fantasy in their minds. So yeah, like I said, you know, the whole idea of, you know, building a mafia game off the core system was, you know, well, I don't know anything about the mafia tropes, you know, so I can't do it. But then I got to thinking about it. I was like, well, you know, maybe, you know, there's tons of media out there. Watched The Sopranos, watched Godfather, watched St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and a couple other movies that Mr. Big recommended. And then I feel like I'd absorbed enough of the tropes, and obviously that's what the classes are built around. You've got fixers, you've got enforcers, I think express those archetypes through the game. But that's I think really all it takes to distill that authenticity from a genre.
Yeah, Michael Dale. Now I need a Rambo movie in which he can cast fireball and stinking cloud. I haven't seen.
Oh yeah, I mean, Rambo spends some time abroad. I mean, he could encounter arcane magic in the same way that the Knights Templar did, in Palestine there. So it's wide open. Make it happen, Michael.
Yeah, the only Rambo movie I think I've ever seen was they're like he's like retired from everything. He's like a boat rider or a boat ferry person in the Congo or something like that. It was like early 2000s or something.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen.
I can't remember the name of.
Within the past year, I did rewatch the original Rambo because it's so good. But he's
I've never seen any of the other Rambo movies.
Crawling through the Pacific Northwest. He gets exposed to a shadow person. They're pretty bad out there in the PNW, I hear. And picks up some kind of arcane touch. Boom, he's casting fireballs.
Yeah, and then Mercurius here talking about if you want anything that's dark or axe related, Chubby Funster is like your go-to guy for like a lot of this stuff. He is another friend of the channel, so I literally half this tote is going to be basically sooner or later it's going to become my Shadow Dark tote because I have so much different Shadow Dark stuff now.
That's awesome.
Because most of them his. Oh, nope, I didn't mean to hit that one. Hold on.
Seeing Cyrus pop up on the screen though reminds me. I think he asked about giant Dio, and actually, instead of tiny D10, giant D10. 100%. One day I'm going to take everything that's ever been put on paper from tiny D10. I'm going to put it into the biggest omnibus that it will fit, and that can be giant D10.
Tiny D10 encyclopedia.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then the one that I remember, it's from 2008. It was just called Rambo, was the movie, and then they did another. It was Rambo: Last Blood back in 2019 was the last one they did. So there's now 5 Rambo movies.
Nice. Okay, I haven't seen any of the newer ones, but I would be willing to sit down and do a Rambo marathon one weekend.
Yeah, I remember my dad one day, forget what this early 2000s, got the 5 Rocky movies, having the box set for Christmas. And we all watched them all as a family that Christmas Day. We watched all 5 Rocky movies.
I love that. I love doing stuff like that. For us, it's normally we'll just every few months we'll sit down one weekend and watch all of the Loader movies again. But yeah, we could branch out. We could get into some other series.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of all the movies I've been watching since I've been part of the Bears of Borderlands server. Let's see. I watched the oldest Excalibur movie for the first time.
Oh,
that goes over King Arthur.
Version?
I think so, yeah. That's full on straight King Arthur history. Does not deviate from it at all. I watched it. It's a Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, the anime movie.
Okay.
Which is basically it's about a Dom Pier surviving a post-apocalypse is what it is. And then this one was actually one of my favorites. It's a B movie. It's called Knights of Badassdom. Is what it's called. It's got a young Peter Dinklage in it.
Oh, okay.
Where it's about a bunch of LARPers doing this big event, and they summon an actual demon in the middle of the LARPing tournament. Here's the funny part about it: it came out in the beginning of 2014, months before the first set of the 5e rules were released that year. And the entire time we're watching, we're like, "This is 5e." These guys were literally LARPing out 5e. We were just saying that repeatedly the entire time this movie was playing. And then, what else did we? There was a movie called Yellowbeard, which is basically Blazing Saddles but pirates. Because it's just, it's funny but raunchy. And then, what was the other one? I always forget the name of this one. It had Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale, where dragons cause the end of the world.
Oh, that's a good one. Reign of Fire.
Rain of Fire. I
That is
always
a
think it's
really
like
good
I always
one.
keep on thinking it's like Siege of Rain or Rain of Siege for some reason.
Yeah, no, that's a super good one. I remember seeing that in theaters. That one goes a little ways back, but yeah, that's a good one. I've shown that one to my boys, just because, yeah, like it's a dark, grim, post-apocalyptic dragon future. Very good movie.
Yeah, and then there's that scene where it's like Matthew McConaughey is like leading the men out to try to fight like the main dragon, and they're all just incinerated with one
Yeah,
pass.
yeah. The best scene in that movie is when he first rolls up to the castle with like his crew there and the tanks and everything. Like, that is a good movie. Gosh, I'm gonna have to rewatch that now.
Yeah, and then we were talking about before the stream, John Carter from 2012, the Disney version.
Yep,
Which
that's
was,
one I've got to see.
yeah, which is it was interesting because I forgot how long it was because it's a little over 2 hours. It's 2 hours and 12 minutes. I'm looking at it right now, but it's still such a good movie for what it is because it was so different. I don't think I'd ever seen anything like it, John Carter before.
Yeah,
And
I'll
then
definitely have to check that one out.
there was another movie that I had seen on the server, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It's going to bother me now because I can't think of it right now. But they do movie nights like usually at least maybe once a week.
Mm-hmm.
I think usually on the weekends when everyone's in town. Of course, Matthew's now at ArnieCon currently,
I know. I've been
playing games and
that.
running
Looks like
games.
they're having
So,
a blast down there.
oh yeah, like a bunch of guys like I don't know if you follow Lord Mattias, but he does his second watch.
I do. Yep.
Yeah, which will so at 10 p.m. my time at least is when it will be. They're trying to. I think they're planning on doing like a little live stream from the ArnieCon location.
Very cool.
Because I think Mattias is there. Gary is there though. I don't know if they're both there or not. So, and then everyone's talking about Giant Dio. I want to point out if y'all hadn't seen, there was that nice little sketch of the soon to be done art by Patty. And that was actually the first time. That was actually a recreation of the first time that some of us ever played Tiny D10. We played GMless on his channel. It's like I think you gotta go back like maybe like a couple months, and you'll see the video where we just got a random mission to go into a cave, discovered vampires and lizard men, and we had to fight all of them off. And the dwarf with the shield and the flail is my character. I was a dwarf.
It was totally glorious. I I had to drop, I don't know, maybe 75% of the way through that stream, but I did go back and watch it the next day, and just one wonderful session. And then, like you said, you guys played GMless. You used Cyrus's Let It Roll rules.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with how well that worked. It was just totally seamless. So I went and grabbed a copy of that and I printed it out, and that is another thing. So, because I'm like the forever DM here. My boys have DM'd a few games, run us through a lot of fun, but I would love to do like a GMless game where we're just shoulder to shoulder. So Let It Roll, running through some sessions with Let It Roll is definitely on my agenda.
Yeah, and he has Let It Roll, but I think he just recently it's the Let It Roll Compendium, which has a lot extra stuff in it. So I have that. There's a few of his games that I got that I just want to try. He has this he has this one called 2012 where you're rolling a D20 and a D10 simultaneously for some of your rolls. And then there's one it's just called I think it's just called 66, and you're just rolling a bunch of D6s for about everything. And sometimes you add them up, sometimes you do them individually. So, because I was actually helping him look over some of the rules, because some of the combat rules, I'm like, maybe you should change this, because I think the idea is you take like a number of D6s like you have for attack, and then what I ended up doing, because he didn't have the rule for it at the time, was whatever the value of the dice, if it meets or goes over the armor value, I think it's if it goes over the armor value, because that's one thing I don't know why, but this is the thing, like if your armor value is 15, and someone rolled a 15, that shouldn't hit you. I think you should have your armor protect you all the way up to that number. I don't know why if it meets it beats became a thing. I still do that rule because that's what everyone's used to. But it's just such a weird thing. I think it should always be over the armor value is what you're trying to do when it comes to these games. But
that seems fair.
That's just me. And of course, I think the odds of like rolling some numbers on D20s could possibly have the effect of it as well. So, because I know for like the Black Hack, the original version of the second original version, you have to only roll under your value.
Right.
Even if you meet it, it's still considered a failure. So,
Mhm.
and I mean, my mind's going all over the place now. So, yeah. But you're also talking about Appendix N books earlier, and I actually there's a few authors I do follow, and one of them was a lady author, and because one of the big things is why don't men read that much anymore?
Mhm.
And I think, well, when you have books like Morning Glory Milking Farm, which is a real book title out
Yeah,
there,
one floating around, pretty grotesque
Shoe
stuff.
on Head just did Shoe on Head. If you, I don't know if you follow her or not, but she just did a whole video about that book because she ended up
Really.
actually buying it for herself. And so, yeah,
Second hand, I hope.
I don't think so. I don't think you can get it secondhand, unfortunately. But no, I was thinking about all the books I read growing up. So of course, I read Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I read the Harry Potter books were one of my favorite ones. But I also read there was the Charlie Bone series, which was kind of like Harry Potter, but more modern and less magical. Like some of the
Okay,
kids still had special abilities, but it was more like an artsy fartsy school more than it was a magic school.
gotcha.
And then there was the Uglies. Well, it was the Uglies trilogy, but then it became like 4 or 5 more books, which is like this weird future where people can like prettify themselves with like science and stuff. And if you didn't do that, you were an ugly. So it was this interesting, like sci-fi, post-apocalypse kind of story that I just liked. It was more kind of like a chick flick book, but because it was sciencey, it got my attention.
Right. Okay.
Then you also got the His Dark Materials trilogy, which was I remember reading that in like junior high, and I liked that book
Mhm.
series. And then I'm trying to remember some of the other books I read. There was a young adult version of the Left Behind series called Teen No Teens Left, like I think it's like left like Left Behind Teens or something like that was called.
Okay.
And but the story went right along with the original Left Behind series. So the kids were interacting with all those characters from the main series as well of those books. Now, I never actually read the Left Behind series. I think I read like the first and the second book. I never read through the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm
And
familiar
then
with the premise, but I haven't read it myself.
yeah, it's just the rapture happens and they're
Right.
making it
Right.
through. Yeah, but it's like there were like 7 books in the main series, and then the kids series had I think like 18 or 19, I think,
Mhm.
but they were like a lot smaller too, as well. And then have you read the Dark is Rising series by Susan Cooper? I'm not familiar with that one.
No, nor am I.
Uh, Another series was the Shadow Children series, which is about like which takes place in a world where it's illegal to have more than 2 kids. But there are people that still have 3 kids, so the 3 kids have to be in hiding, or else the government comes and kidnaps them. So that was a whole book series I enjoyed reading a lot as well. I actually got into H.G. Wells early, like when I was in junior high, was when I first read Animal Farm for the first time. And you want to talking about what the Communist Party is actually like? Read Animal Farm because that sets the whole narrative up. I have not read 1984. That is one I still need to read. And
Yeah,
then
I've read quite a few of George Orwell, but it's been yeah many years. And political fiction is just not super intriguing to me. Like I've kind of, it's not like a hard rule, but like I generally only read stuff these days because I'm reading for pleasure. Like I've got many other ways to absorb knowledge, and so like when I sit down to read something, I want to read something for pleasure. I generally go back to the public domain. I go back as far as I possibly can. So like I said, Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, Jules Verne. I love Jules Verne. I have a lot of
mm,
Jules Verne up on the shelf here. But yeah, I like to go back. I like to go back quite a bit. 100 years or further, and that's like where my sweet spot for literature is.
my mom used to be a big John Grisham fan, so she had a whole library of his books, and I ended up reading a few of those as well, and I enjoyed some of those.
Uh-huh.
So, and then there was actually one I remember reading in high school, not my freshman year, my sophomore year. It was this weird like historical fiction story where uh the Muslim nations like came over and attacked America, and this big war happened and they won. So there's this map in the book of the USA, but it's divided where you have the Islamic states of America. The Bible Belt is still Christian, but it's like a wasteland. Utah is like a neutral Mormon state, so no one messes with that, surprisingly enough. But it was this interesting story about about this whole collision happening, and then it's this new United States. So it was an interesting one. There was another historical fiction one I saw where it's that the American Revolution, the British won because they caught George Washington and hung him.
Uh-huh.
So it was interesting to see, like, okay, we still want to fight for our nation, but now our leader's gone. What do we do?
Right.
So when people are like, why don't men read books anymore? And I think about all those books that I remember reading, and then I see what they put out now today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think the question is not framed correctly to begin with. Men are still reading books; they're just not buying, New York Times bestsellers. I think that's the key difference there. The people who are saying why don't men read books? That's because they're looking for a male demographic in the New York Times bestsellers, and they're not going to find them there because those books aren't written for men. You could argue those books aren't written for anyone. Really, I mean, it seems like it's pretty easy to game the system there. I think like publishers will just like buy up a bunch of their own books, or a bunch of their authors' books to get them onto the bestseller list. So yeah, like I said, I think the question isn't framed correctly in the first place. Men are still reading. All the men I know are very avid readers. They're just not reading stuff that you can capture with analytics.
Mm-hmm. So there's two series that I'm kind of re-exploring again to use for like gaming purposes. So one of the book series I read, it's a 10-book series. Hold on, I need to actually get because it used to be called just Pendragon, but it's something else now because if I say that, everyone thinks King Arthur, but it's not King Arthur related at all. It's called Pendragon: Journal of an Adventure Through Time and Space because it focuses on this teenage, like maybe 16, 17-year-old boy who had it all. His uncle suddenly kind of comes back, and then all of a sudden there's this evil guy now. And then he learns, oh, there's like other worlds out there, and now he has to travel to all these worlds to stop this bad guy. So, and actually, the same author bought the DJ McHale. He actually had for the first 6 planets, he released a small like little book with information about it, and I ended up buying that because it's like this will be fun to run for like a game. Another one, I hardly read that much anymore, but I don't know what brought this into me because there's an RPG I own. It's called We Deal in Lead, which is about gunslingers, but introduces kind of that weird fantasy stuff into the mix. And you could travel to different worlds as well. And for some reason, I think this is actually what part of it's inspired of. I started remembering The Dark Tower. Now, I had never read The Dark Tower before, and I've never seen the movie they made about it either. But it just came in my head for some reason. So I found a podcast that I've been listening to. And I've been listening to the episodes where they go over the Dark Tower books, just learning about those and how those stories went. It's because the idea is with that game. I want to, because of the podcast I'm doing Curse of Strahd for, I told them once we're done with this, I'm expanding y'all's palette. We're going to do some other games besides D&D. Nice. And so with the We Deal in Lead, I'm thinking of a combination of like Dark Tower with the Rest in Peace Department, the movie. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Hold on. It's Jeff Bridges and one other actor. I forget. He's like Ryan Reynolds, I think it was. R.I.P.D. Yeah, it was released in 2013, and it was. This is going to drive me nuts. Why do I never have these on hand? Yeah, Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds, where they're basically like dead. They die, and they were like officers in their time, but instead of going to the bad place or to hell, they could offer their like police services to be like a heavenly police department to bring demons that escaped their judgment and bring them back to further judgment, basically. So it's like Dark Tower mixed with RPD and then maybe some SCP vibes mixed in with some of the creatures and all that. So
yeah, that's what I know.
Yeah, a lot of SCP stuff. I was really big into that at one point. There's a few SCP RPGs that have been made in recent years too.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's always something I wanted to pick up because I think SCPs are kind of like a millennial thing. But like, so as a parent, like I have to look at things like generationally, because like I've got, I'm a millennial, my kids are Zoomers, and I just love Zoomers. I think they're funny. I think they're real sharp, bunch of kids. But Zoomers are like super into SCP. So like, my kids never got a lot of exposure, until they started to like, kind of expand their friends group. And then like, their Zoomer friends are just obsessed with SCP. They're making like mods for all their, like Steam games to add SCP elements into it. So I've always wanted to like grab one of those SCP role playing games and run them and some of their friends through it, but I haven't done it. But I'm gonna have to write that one down. I'm gonna have to do that, because SCP is still very popular with the Zoomers.
All right. So Patty says, Aaron, tell us more about your fiction writing. You released a new short story today.
I did, yeah. Gosh, I've been sitting on that one for a long time. I've been wanting to do this like Monster of the Week thing, and it will never be on a weekly frequency. But like best case scenario, I'll do like Monster of every few months. But I'll still call it Monster of the Week, because that's the spirit of it. That's kind of a format in and of itself. But yeah, so I've been sitting on this one for a long time. It was like 90% done, and I just kind of got inspired out of nowhere to wrap it up today. So I mean, like, that's pretty much it. Like I really like to write fiction, but it's just kind of like a time consuming process for me. It's again, kind of coming back to like, all of our friends here, like Matthew, like Chubby, who are just like unbelievably prolific. There's got to be some kind of secret that they could probably sell us if they just spent a little time, if they took a break from publishing so many incredible things and just like told us their secret as to how they do it. There's money in that. But like I said, I am not that way. I'm very slow in terms of like my creative output. So I'm just happy to every now and then be able to sit down and peck away at something. For probably the past few years, so I have published a few kind of like weird fiction stories through like kind of like various collections and things like that. I've published under a pseudonym. That's, I think, probably one of the things that I enjoy the most. But like I said, I'm just slow at it. I kind of just gravitate towards weird fiction, and I'm kind of exploring more of like a fantasy genre in doing this Monster of the Week thing. I'm trying to lean a little bit into fantasy, a little bit into sword and sorcery, and see kind of just how that goes. That's what I like to read, but it's not what I'm very good at writing. Like if I guess if I could say, like if I was given the chance or given the choice to read either Howard or Lovecraft, I'd always pick Howard. But given the choice to sit down and write, I feel like I gravitate more towards Lovecraft's material in my own writing. But like I said, Monster of the Week is an opportunity for me to figure out how to write, kind of heroic, sort of swashbuckling, or at least, kind of like action-oriented material.
I've never actually read any of Lovecraft's work. I only just know about it because of Call of Cthulhu and any of the other like Eldritch games that are out there. Because someone actually made, it's called someone actually made a D20 version of kind of Call of Cthulhu, but they still have a D100 system in there. But they made it where you can interchange the D100 with D20 though, as well. And I completely forgot. It's like the Eldritch. Hold on, I have it on my phone. Let me look it up really quick.
Yeah. I've played Call of Cthulhu and I've played Trail of Cthulhu as well. And of the two, I really enjoy. I like them both, but Trail of Cthulhu is a lot of fun. Really like more centered toward like the investigative aspect, which, like I said, I enjoy that a lot. Lovecraft. Everything that he wrote is in the public domain on the internet. I don't think it's public domain in the U.S., but it's public domain in the U.K. So you can read everything that he wrote. And some of it might be public domain in the US, but it's like I said, you can find it all for free online, and I highly recommend it. If you've never read anything, I would say start outside of the mythos, and like a lot of his work touches the mythos. But yeah, start outside of the mythos. Start with like Shadow over Innsmouth. That's a riveting tale. The Reanimator is also another really good one. I think The Curious Case of Charles Dexter Ward, I think that's it, is another really good one. But yeah, he again another very prolific author. And yeah, anything you start with him to be,
Yeah.
it's gonna be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So the game I was thinking of was called Eldritch Tales, and it's got the D20, and then up here, it's just hold on, I got shelves up here that are full of books too. And this one is the one that I've been needing to do some stuff with. And a buddy of mine, it's called Vindicta RPGs, made this little rules light Cthulhu Unleashed book.
Very
where
cool.
You can, where it's more like modern day. It's like I don't mind the 1920s. It's not my ideal setting, but this one's more set for like modern day. So I've always like immediately I'm thinking like Silent Hill, I am losing my train of thought. I'm so sorry. My brain's going all over the place right now, and what was I thinking of? Like a Silent Hill Breakfast Club. That's what I was thinking of. So all the high school students, and they're in this area, and then there's something after them, basically. So that's what I'm thinking about doing. So
that sounds cool. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I usually try to wrap this up about an hour and a half, so that way I don't have to keep y'all all night, especially since we started late, which I apologize for to everyone. So, anything else you want to touch on for a bit before we close it out?
No, I think that's pretty much it for me. I appreciate you having me on. I've been looking forward to this, and it did not disappoint. Very fun.
Well, except for the fact with everything not working at first.
Yeah, see, that was your problem. That wasn't mine. I was just hanging out.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. Cthulhu called by letting go the voicemail. Cyrus says.
Yeah, but I want to call out real quick before we drop off here. Patty said something very wise, which is definitely his MO. Let me zip back through the chat here. You said, yeah, faith, discipline, and courage are huge parts of creating things. That is absolutely the case. And that's something that I've come to realize over the past few years. And that's kind of helped me to be at peace with my creative process, which, like I said, is very slow, and it used to frustrate me. It doesn't anymore. And a lot of that has to do with just, having faith, having trust. It's that those are the roots of courage. So true, Patty. So true, King.
Hold on. Michael Dale was just talking about the Dungeon Delver has his Call of Cthulhu game that he runs in October going on right now. So if y'all want to leave after this ends, go ahead and see that. And then don't forget at 10. Well, again, I'm saying this all Central Time, so 10 p.m. Central Time. Gary and Lord Mattias will be on for the second watch, so y'all can go watch that. And then Patty was apparently charged for the Cthulhu call.
He called Colette.
Even though he called,
well, when he's calling from Ryla, they don't have they have roaming charges down there.
I mean, it's gonna be. This is still no ChrisCon for me, but I absolutely love the I Fucked Cthulhu song that one TikToker did like years ago, because I get stuck in my head on repeat all the time because it's just a funny, catchy song. I'll send you the link after this. Or no, I'm not gonna play it right now. I'll send you the short after this. It's basically just about this guy who. It's basically like just think you're D&D bard, and that's basically a guy saying was he going kind of happening. I cannot speak. I don't know why tonight. So, all right. So where can everyone find you at?
I appreciate that comment. The chat has been great. You guys have very interesting things to say.
All right. So where can everyone find you at, Aaron?
You can find me on X, TD10 RPG. I think that's my handle. You can find me at td10.org. You can also find me over at Substack. I think that's like my main internet footprint there. td10.org has all the stuff that you can download. It's also got, web-based rules. It's got, just a bunch of content that, you could squeeze into a game if you like. Substack, I'm also posting stuff over there. And then, like I said, on X, find me on X. Let's chat. Some really cool stuff for me has happened on X. If I wasn't on there, we wouldn't have the Syndicate. If I wasn't on there, I wouldn't have such great new elements to add to my games here at home. So yeah, X is a really cool place. We got a really great, friendly bunch of guys on our side of the hobby. So yeah.
And guys, these aren't that expensive either. It's like I think this was I got from Lulu, and this you can get off Drive-Thru RPG. And if you And if you want to actually support Mr. Big himself, there actually have two versions of this. There's this one, but there's the second one, which is like it actually has another book installed with it that goes over the entire like mafia history that he
Yeah.
also covers as well because he's a big historian.
Supporting Mr. Big, really cool stuff on organized crime in general. Keep your eyes open for more syndicate stuff. I've got a couple adventures that I'm just, I'm going to be releasing soon. Also through Mr. Big's publisher, which is Edgeweaver. He's got some really cool stuff. He is reviving a lot of public domain classics and bringing them back into a very, handsome physical format. So that's awesome. Otherwise, like you said, the Fantasy Core rules. Fantasy Core is available for print cost on Lulu. Also on X, I do very regular giveaways of Fantasy Core and stickers and stuff like that, just because I want people to have fun. So it's all over the place. You'll see it out there.
I do know he does. Mr. Big does already have one adventure for this, where it's like you're like investigating like a chop shop or something that's working on your turf.
GM wrote that one, and I haven't had a chance to play it yet. But
I bought it because he's been talking to me now ever since I started doing Syndicate. And remind me the name of the one that he's working on now, because he's having me play test that one once he gets a little further into it.
I can't remember the name of that one. We have talked about it.
It was like Tress.
Oh yeah,
the one with the
yeah. So that is his like DEA game, where you're like fighting the cartel. I don't know a whole ton about that one, but I'm excited to see what he comes up with. I think that's gonna be really cool, and that's also built on the Tiny D10 core system.
Yeah, and I mean, me playing as guys hunting down the drug cartels, I'm all for that at a time. So
let's go. Very, very topical. Very topical. And then for Cyrus, any Halloween stuff? Yes. So I'm trying to. I've got we have a Halloween adventure that's like kind of a tradition in our house to play through, centered around the Headless Horseman. It changes every year, but I've got a lot of material for that. I'm in the process of formatting it into a zine. Just kind of like experimenting with like home printing zines. I've done it before. It's a lot of fun. So my plan is probably this weekend, sit down, hammer it out, get it into the zine, and then I'm going to print out like however many people might be interested in, like 20 to 30, and we're going to do giveaways of those. So we've got a zine called Red Moon Rising. It introduces locations, some NPCs, some treasure, and a major villain, the Headless Horseman. So keep your eyes open for that. There will be giveaways.
I like that title, Red Moon Rising. That just sounds so cool already. So I'd be like, I'm down for that. So yeah. And as always, everyone, follow me on YouTube, Rumble, where you can subscribe to me, get those likes up, comment, share, subscribe. Follow me on X, the Ultra Mega TTRPGer at Ultra TTRPGER. And I'm not anywhere else, because if I try to go anywhere else, I probably would not stay on there too long with who I am. So what I do. So, but make sure you all come back tomorrow morning for the Ultracast, where we talk about more RPG stuff and other topical topics. Not topical topics. All right, everyone, go enjoy some games, roll some dice, take care, and have a good week.